I'm Spencer McMullen. I'm an attorney and court translator. I live here in beautiful Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, where I came to Mexico to retire when I was about 34, 35. And then I unretired, went to law school, and now I'm working probably harder than I did years back.
Hey, Gen Mex, you just met Spencer, and we are out here on his balcony overlooking the city of Guadalajara. It's beautiful. Check out this view here. Just a wonderful view. And we're out here on the balcony, so you'll probably hear some city noises in the background, but that's just, we're in the city. So we're going to hear about Spencer's law career, how that happened, a little bit about how he made his way to Mexico, whether he speaks Spanish, what's he paying for rent here in this really cool, just below the penthouse, maybe 2 stories below the penthouse apartment here in Guadalajara. So let's go and hear the beginning of the story.
Well, I was living in Santa Barbara, California. I had a mortgage and escrow company, but I saw the prices rising and rising and thought there was going to be a crash pretty soon. Coincidentally, about at the same time, a friend said, hey, I just bought a house, this place called Chapala, Mexico. Thought, I like to travel internationally, I'll go and see him. And came down here and thought, wow, the weather's nice. I speak Spanish, maybe there's an opportunity. And as I saw the prices getting crazier and crazier and the bubble about to burst, I also found a property for sale and bought that. Thought, you know what, I'm going to get out while I can, buy this property and retire early and live simply and frugally, not living high off the hog, because the dollar stretches farther here in Mexico.
So I want to hear how we went from Chapala, which is about 45 minutes away maybe, to here in the middle of the city.
So Chapala's great. I mean, it's quiet. I mean, where I got my place, it's neat because I used to live in the suburbs. They're kind of far from things, relatively speaking, in the U.S. And here, I'm in, well, in Chapala as well as here, I'm in the center of town where I can walk a block and have stores, food, whatever I want, which is kind of a new concept coming from a car culture in California. So then everything here is in Guadalajara, got to study law school, come out here. So I thought, well, it's better that I get a place here in Guadalajara so I don't do all the back and forth driving, because I always tell people, you don't have to worry about the narcos getting you. It's the cows and horses and dogs in the middle of the night in the roadway that are probably the biggest danger to most people here in Mexico.
Okay, so he's got a place in Chapala, which is an older building. He'll talk more about that. And then living here in Guadalajara part-time because it's the big city and he's in law school. But let's go to the end. Well, you know what? Let's back up and before law school, because what was it that drives someone to, from retirement in their mid-30s to going back and becoming even more busy than they were in the beginning?
So retired early, figured to get out with the rat race. I didn't see much of future, where people were making 100,000 a year living poor. Well, buy a place, I'll have no nut to crack, the monthly rent, property taxes here are maybe $100 a year, and insurance is pretty cheap, so it's not like having a mortgage payment in the US and struggling. So then after living in Chapala, I thought, well, for law school, I need to live in Guadalajara, and I'll probably open an office here too, and it's just easier, there's more stuff to do in the city, so I started renting here in Guadalajara. And various places, different parts of the city, it's always good to see, every little section kind of has its flavor, every little neighborhood. And where I finally settle now, I love where I live. So I think I finally found a really good spot. I got bored because at first, you retire, what do? You wake up and you do nothing really productive. I was doing actually some online work, some like legal brief ghostwriting for some attorneys in the US, as well as still did some banking things. But then I got bored. I was remodeling the building. I bought an older building for super cheap because the lake had almost dried up about 20 years ago. So I got a good deal. So I was running the remodel with the workers and all that, but that finished up. And I got bored and thought, well, people had always asked me, because I'd spoken Spanish, can you help me with this or look this up? Then I got the great idea to go to law school. And then that was a second career in my life.
So going to law school is not a decision that most people would take very lightly, especially if they were looking at retirement. But I could kind of understand if you're in your 30s and getting bored, that having another career is a good thing. So I want to hear a little bit about what his law practice does, the fact that it's in 2 places. Let's hear about what he's doing these days.
So I've got 2 law offices. I've got one in Chapala, where it's nice because Chapala is so close to everything. It's in downtown Chapala. People come walking, and it gets real busy there. And there it's generally the lifestyle, more relaxed, more retired people over 60, although there are a lot of younger people coming out now. And it's the cycle of life for foreigners. So it's strategizing with people to help them get their residency visas, doing due diligence for real estate purchases, reviewing rental contracts, helping them out with the tax authorities to get signed up with that. Pretty much any interaction with government offices, as well as probate, and then we do insurance and banking law. Here in Guadalajara, it's about the same, but in Chapala, probably about 70% of my clients are foreigners. Here in Guadalajara, it's maybe 40%. And here it's Americans, Canadians, and Hindus from India are like a huge chunk. And the rest are Mexicans who want tourist visas, who want translations of their documents so they can study a master's degree in a different country. Or maybe there's an issue with the death of a person or foreign bank account, the foreign country being the US, because we're in Mexico. So it's a little bit different. Plus, many of the main government offices, such as the Profeco, the Consumer Protection Agency, Prodecon, the Tax Ombudsman's Office, the Federal Tax Offices, Head Immigration Office, they're all here in Guadalajara, so often we need to present documents to them or receive notifications, so it helps to have a physical brick and mortar address here.
Now, y'all might not be ready to become attorneys. However, you may be ready to have a business in Mexico, because I know Spencer's doing everything by the book. I think this might be a good chance to hear about what it's like to form a business in Mexico.
Well, forming a business here, it can be easy. It depends if you are working in a field that needs a professional license, like you said, like attorneys do, doctors, architects, accountants need that. But there are other businesses that are a little bit of a gray area. You have people that do kind of physical therapy work, which could be massage. You have other businesses where you might need to have a corporate structure by law. But we try to put people into this simple structure. I've always looked for simplicity. So you have actually like a flat tax, because a lot of people that come down here, if you work out of your house, you don't have many expenses, why be thrust into a system where you have deductions and write-offs, and the write-offs must be an official tax factura where they've not paid cash and they verified it came out of someone's bank account with a very official receipt. And even then you're thrust into between 2% and 35% income tax on top of sales tax. Now, we put people in a special program where you can earn up to 3.5 million pesos per year gross, and you pay a 1 or 2% tax on that, and there are no deductions. So this is perfect for probably about 99% of the foreigners who don't have raw materials, production costs, huge employees, huge office expenses, and we set them up on that. If people do need a corporate structure, we can do that as well.
So that's great. 1 to 2% tax is way different than what I had been seeing in terms of like taxation at 35% when your income goes over something like 30,000 US dollars a year. So I want to know about that. Also, my business is an LLC up in the United States. So it's a single member LLC. So let me hear if that's, if I were to start doing business in Mexico, if that would be something that would be advisable too.
So I have the income tax like in the US with between a 2 and 35% bracket on the general tax structure where you write stuff off, and then your net income, you're applied to that. Then you have what many Americans don't get or understand, which is the IVA, which is sales tax, or VAT, value added tax, or GST, goods and services tax. Most people know that you buy an object, right? Not food. You buy a phone, you're going to pay sales tax. Well, here in Mexico, if you use the services of an attorney, an accountant, you buy anything except for food and medicine, you're going to pay that 16% sales tax. So it's entirely possible that you pay over 50% in taxes on your income between the IVA sales tax and the income tax. So avoiding that would either be getting a lot of deductions if you really have them for your business, where you can really write everything off to get a lower bracket, or use the Regimen Simplificado de Confianza, also known as Recico, which is the flat tax between 0.5% and I think 2%, depending upon how much you earn, and there's no deductions. So you could do that and lower your taxes significantly. Also, there's another provision to lower your IVA or sales tax to 0. And this is where you might need an accountant's guidance on, because if you're doing work online or you're essentially performing it outside of Mexico for someone, then you can lower that IVA sales tax to a 0 tax. So then, in essence, you're making $160,000 a year, paying a 1 or 2% tax on that money, and it's clean, taxed you're legit. You're not committing tax evasion.
Hey, I'm just going to break in really quick here and let you know that if you haven't subscribed, it'd be really awesome if you subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. Thanks so much, and let's get back to the video. So taxes in Mexico might be a lot less than I was imagining, and all the more reason for expats to do things by the book in Mexico. So something to think about. But let's kind of switch gears from the business side of things to the personal side of things. And hopefully that's not too loud over there. There's a construction site right across the way here. But let's hear about, this place where he lived.
So I live here in Guadalajara in a high-rise apartment. I don't have a yard per se, but I like it. There's a concept here, kind of mixed use. So I've got a great view of the city, which I like. I've got my gas barbecue grill. I have barbecues with friends, and you can see all the historic parts of Guadalajara, all the, Cerro del Cuatro, Expo Guadalajara, Minerva's right here, which is the iconic traffic circle. And I like it because right downstairs, I've got literally a fancy shopping mall where I've got a gourmet grocery store, I've got Starbucks, I've got Office Max, I've got GNC, I've got the gym I go to every morning. So really, I don't need to leave and get in my car and be stuck in traffic anymore, which is great. Like I said, I came from California and car culture, and this is great here where I just walk everywhere, which is a very short walk, and then 3 or 4 blocks away every Sunday they close off the roads for the Via Recreativa, so I'll take my bike and bike 10 or 20 kilometers and just see the city and the sights. So I've got a 3-bedroom, 3-bath place here, great view. I'm not sure what floor I'm on, because I'm on the 10th floor, but then you've got the Planta Baja, which is supposedly ground zero, but that's 2 floors above the street level. So I'm between 10 and 14, high up enough where you don't have mosquitoes, you don't have that much dust here. So that's something to think about. Or on the lower floors, you have bugs and have more dust and dirt. But if you're scared of heights, then maybe you've got to find a happy medium.
So 3-bedroom, 3-bath here in a tower. Beautiful, beautiful view here. Let's hear what he's paying for rent.
So you want to know what I pay and what I get. So obviously I've got 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms here. There's security guards downstairs. I've got underground parking. I've got underground parking for guests. I pay about $1,200 US. Water's about $8 a month. Electricity is about maybe $15 a month. Internet and phones about $35 a month for fiber optic 300 megabit service. So pretty affordable.
Check it out. High-rise building, $1,200 a month, plus those other very minimal costs. And this is very much like Los Angeles or something, minus the beach, but just a big city with all the big city amenities. And maybe something that Los Angeles doesn't have so much is the walkability and the bikeability here. These are 2 things that I've really noticed as I've been going around town. So of course, there is a lot to do in Guadalajara. So let's hear about Spencer's kind of entertainment, or how he's spending his time.
So I work a lot. I mean, maybe 40, 60 hours a week, and I like to have fun. So I'll go to the gym every day, sometimes twice a day. I went this morning, I'll probably go this afternoon with a friend, get leg day in, then get legs. And then right in back of me here, probably got 12 of the best restaurants in the city. So the only thing is, where are we going to go? I live alone, and I hate cooking. I like to cook, but I don't like to clean. So it's equivalent to not like to cook. And we've got great restaurants here. I mean, there's a great sushi place about 15 minutes away, and about 3 or 4 blocks in back are all these great places, and it's just deciding where to go. Do we want, seafood? Do we want Argentinian? Do we want fusion? Do we want good steaks? And a good steak is maybe $25. You can maybe the Kobe beef one, the real fancy stuff might be $50. You have nightclubs and night spots with DJ spinning, and you can usually get bottle service, or you get the bottle, and the delivery is everything. So they might have a midget Darth Vader bring it. They might have girls in bikinis dancing with fireworks on your bottle, and then bring it to your table. And it's a couple $100, and definitely makes the night very interesting and split between a few people. It's pretty cheap for interesting entertainment, having fun.
So I'm not sure if bottle service is in my agenda this weekend. It sounds like it would be a heck of a lot of fun, but I'm kind of a more low-key guy. I'll probably just be hanging out at a coffee shop in Colonia Americana, which is where I'm staying. But let's hear about how you could work with Spencer if you're in need of an attorney and it's something that's in his wheelhouse. So let's hear about that.
My offices help out people all over, different countries. They'll come here, even people within Mexico, because here in Mexico, while the law says one thing, practices are different. So many times people might live in a different state, different part of Mexico, but maybe their immigration office or the tax office is a few-hour drive, and there's no one that can help them with all the government applications and requests. So they'll fly out here for a week and we'll hook them up, take care of everything. Taxation with the tax authorities, getting registered, fixing things, immigration, anything else. Even we do a lot of nationality for people who have Mexican parents or grandparents, and a lot of people are appreciating their Mexican heritage and wanting that Mexican nationality. And they did make a change in the Mexican Constitution about 2 years ago where it's easy to do chains of naturalizations. So we could actually register someone as Mexican if they have a parent or grandparent who's Mexican. So those people will come in here, fly in to see Guadalajara, we'll help them get their Mexican IDs if they're here on vacation.
So you're going to find Spencer's contact information down below if you need an attorney. And he mentioned kind of the language barrier. And I'm wondering why he doesn't have a language barrier, because so many of us from the United States seem to start out here not knowing any Spanish and maybe getting a little bit better over time. But if he's a practicing attorney, clearly he's speaking some high level of Spanish.
So my grandma's Spanish, and my mom's first language was Spanish, and she struggled with English. This is back in the 40s in San Francisco. So she said, it's your heritage, you need to learn Spanish. So I learned growing up, and then I took in college literature classes where they'd say, here's an 18th century novel, write a 20-page paper. So I came here kind of cheating, and not like some foreigners that, come here no Spanish. I sort of had the background in Spanish. So it made it a little bit easier, although in law school I had my cheat sheet of words that I kept forgetting the meaning, and so I could look them up. And about one page I kind of scribbled on there all the words I didn't know. Everyone asks me, Mexicans, hey, how can I learn English? And foreigners, how can I learn Spanish? Here's the advice I give people to learn the other language. I say, in the morning in your computer, open up a newspaper, if you're American or, English speaker, in Spanish, and then have the newspaper on the right side of the screen and a dictionary on the left side, and start reading articles. Bring yourself up on current events. It's going to build your vocabulary. The second part would be watching a movie in that other language with the subtitles. And then the words that you learn, you're going to start putting together, hearing them, seeing them there. And then the last one is the retroalimentation, where you're actually having a conversation with someone, putting to practice the vocabulary and the words you built up.
So that was a great tip for learning Spanish. I love the idea of the two things on the screen at the same time. But let's get a tip for forming a business before we start to wrap up the video.
So for forming businesses, I always encourage people not to use corporations or entities. Many people come from the US, it's very litigious and they want protection. Mexico isn't very sue happy. Corporations imply, or entities imply, formation, reporting requirements, just a whole host of things and hassle and bureaucracy that really takes away from your profit. It costs time and money. So the first thing to look at is in forming a business, besides doing market studies, looking who's your market and so forth, is keeping your taxes low. And that implies filing taxes because you don't want to get in trouble with the tax authorities. But it's entirely possible to do everything properly and correctly and have a successful business here. There are lots of opportunities here in Mexico for all people.
Great. Well, thank you, Spencer, for this interview, and thank you for watching. I've got more videos up here from folks in Guadalajara or folks all around Mexico. Watch those next. Wish you were here. Hasta luego.